pjnet.tv, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. But our first time guest is not on the East Coast, so when we get done here, she'll probably eat dinner, supper. But anyway, our bumper is running, and we are recording, we are streaming, chat room waiting. Our mission is to provide a platform for everyday Christians to share their walk with Christ. Let's switch to Studio 36 Alpha after this countdown. Well, good evening and welcome to pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick, and I am so happy to be here after a day of engineering. We are featuring tonight, first time, wireless earplugs. No more dangly cord getting in front of my keyboard and a brand new mic. Hopefully it sounds better. We'll find out. I'll watch the game film, I promise. 269 different guests have appeared on this program, and guest number 269 joins us from the West Coast. I mean, in not only another time zone, but another culture. And Lyneta, we went over this a lot of times. Mrs. Smith, Lyneta, did I do it?
That's right. Hello.
I did it. Okay. If you just go by the spelling, it works. Joins us from her home on the West Coast. And Lyneta, you have had quite a journey in several parts of the country, but you have been on also a journey with Christ.
I have. I'm blessed. I feel so grateful to be redeemed and to be be one of his children. And it's not an easy journey by any means. I think sometimes it's harder in some ways, but I'm so blessed every day and just always grateful about that.
You're a Wyoming girl, though.
That's where I was born. Yes, I grew up at the foot of the Bighorns in Wyoming and in Buffalo, and that's where I started out. So it was kind of, I come from humble means. My dad was a mechanic and my mom was a nurse's aide, and it was quite the beginning, very, very far from where I am now. So it was kind of, I will say it was a rough childhood, and I wasn't always grateful for my beginnings, but I know now that God put me exactly where he needed me to be, and he always has a reason, even though we don't see it at the time. I may never know all the reasons here on this side of eternity, but he does, and we can trust that. So it's very good to remember that sometimes when we're going through a tough season.
You know, when we were talking off the air earlier today, I got the impression that perhaps your father or parents were in the military, because you've been around the country at a lot of different places, but not because of the military.
I was in the Air Force. When I graduated high school, I left for the Air Force. And so
Good for you.
I got stationed a couple places around the country. But mostly it's been moves for jobs and things like that. So my mom liked to move a lot. We moved out of state when I was in my late teens, and then I moved quite a few places in the Air Force. But then my husband got a job in Tennessee, and so that was my first trip to the South, and we lived there for about 12 years, and we loved it. So it's been good. There's a lot of wonderful places around this country, and I'm glad to have seen a lot of it. So
where would you call home?
That's a hard question, but when you say that, my heart goes to Newport, Oregon, where I lived probably 10 years before we moved to Tennessee. And I still have a lot of good friends there. I feel like that's where I've been a Christian since I was 7. I accepted Christ and was baptized at a very early age. But in my late 20s, we moved to Newport, Oregon, and there were just ladies in the church who really challenged me and encouraged me, and that was when I became just really excited about studying the Word, and grew a lot spiritually. And so, I don't know that I like physical home, but those people feel like home to me. So, I mean, aside from my husband and our kids and grandkids, of course, but those are the people that really nurtured me along the way. And so that's what feels like home.
For some people, moving is a very stressful event. When you change where you work, where you live, or who you live with, those are stressors. But you've seemed quite comfortable in having been located in a lot of places. You connect easily, apparently.
Oh no, I wouldn't say it's not stressful. I would love to meet someone who doesn't think moving is stressful. Yeah, it still is, and I definitely don't love moving, but I have learned that I can trust that God will make things okay. We've He'll bring along that friend or a job or something like that makes me go, oh, that's why I'm here in this place. So, in fact, we moved out to Pullman, Washington from Tennessee because we weren't planning on it. We were planning to stay in Tennessee for just indefinitely. We had no plans to leave. But when my daughter found out that our grandson, when she was pregnant, she found out that he had a heart defect. And so I wanted to support her. And it's hard to do that all the way across the country. She and her husband had moved out here to take a ministry job. And I just couldn't fathom not being with her. And so, there he is. That's little Evan. He's had 2 heart surgeries. And we've just been really grateful to be able to walk alongside them. They were out here, doing ministry. They didn't have any family. And since my husband and I both work remotely, we decided it was time to pick up and go. And so that's a pretty cute little reason to move right there, I think. So.
And do you get to see Evan every day? I know you saw him today.
I get to see him just about every day. Yes. His parents both have to work right now, and so I get to take care of him during the day while they do that. So, and he's just a happy little guy, and I'm thankful for every minute because it's when you go through something like such a serious heart condition where it wasn't a given that he would live.
Right.
We're just thankful for every minute. So he's got one more heart surgery, we think, and after that, hopefully, that will be the last of it. But we just try to be grateful for him for every little time we get. So
now you mentioned that both you and your husband work remotely. Tell us about you and your husband's day jobs.
My husband works for a company called Covenant Eyes. That is a
I know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a computer programmer, And we have one of those houses that kind of has, it's a split level, so there's 3 levels. He has his office down on the bottom floor, and I have mine up on the top floor. And so when Evan goes down for a nap, then I can go in my office, which is just the room next door. But my husband and I, just kind of, we're apart physically, like on different floors, but we work together. We meet in the middle for lunch and such. So um, yeah, I am a writer, and he's a computer programmer, and he also is a writer. He's been to Blue Ridge with me a time or two, and we we just have been able to work together like separately for about 4 years now. So it's been great.
It's a real blessing, even before COVID, I saw the possibility, the potential, of working remotely, and what that has done for childcare, what that has done for marriages, just having time to interact with one another during the day. Like I say, you go to the middle floor and just have coffee or lunch or something like that, and
Yeah,
it's precious time. My wife works from home, and about noontime, we'll spend a little time together, and it's something I look forward to, and it's very good. Now, your writing journey, the book that we have featured, Curtain Call. This is not a new release, but the story is very enduring on how this book came to be.
yeah. So I I went through a pretty traumatic period um, as an adult, and it was just some. I had sort of shoved aside a traumatic childhood, and it was a lot of difficult memories. And so when they started recurring, um, I realized that something was terribly wrong. And so all of this stuff that I thought I had completely forgotten about, I didn't want to deal with it, but I was forced to, because the counselor said that I had PTSD. So, um, and the only way to deal with that, right, is to get healing for whatever trauma happened in the past. And so this book is that journey, and it's how I realized that God had a purpose for me. He had a purpose for why he put me here. And I think before that, I didn't really feel like there was much of a purpose for me per se, because and I've heard a lot of people talk to me about this. They will thank me for writing the book and say, "Wow, I'm so glad that you were able to tell this story, because I could never say this about my life, but I can relate to so much of this." And so them just hearing that they're not alone has been so, yeah, freeing for them. And so this story that I never wanted anyone to know, never wanted to deal with, now encourages a lot of people. And it I when I came through a really, really tough season, it was 2014. Um, Honestly, the first draft of this book was, for me, it was kind of cathartic. It was just
Hmm.
part of my healing process. And then as I redrafted it and rewrote it, it was then I could aim it towards the reader, so that they could get their own thing from it. They could have the just be encouraged that they too can um, have that kind of healing if they're dealing with a troubled past.
I'm glad you told me that, Lynetta, because as I look at it and Curtain Call, that doesn't reek of coping with PTSD and recovering from PTSD. How'd you come up with that title?
When my daughters were in their teens, we did a lot of community theater together. And because I didn't want to just leave them to their own devices, I got involved in theater too. And so curtain call is one of those theater terms that simply means at the end of the show, all the actors come out and take their bows, and then you can take off the costume and the makeup and go home, and you're back to your old self, right? So this book is just how God called me to stop pretending and being, denying that anything was wrong, and finally accepting that I needed His healing, and and B, really that the place where He put me, where I grew up, and all of that is a part of my story. He had a purpose and a plan for that, and it didn't mean that I was less than. It didn't mean that I was junk. It just meant He showed me that it meant that I just had a different path, and there was a purpose for that pain. And so now that the book is encouraging other people, I can kind of see part of that. Like I said earlier, I don't know if I'll have all the answers. I may never know why, all the reasons why I had to go through the things that I did. But now I know that God can use that for good. He can use the bad choices that other people made for good in my life. So,
Lyneta, when I asked about your day job, you identified as a writer. Now I find out this girl from Wyoming is into theater. That seems a bit unlikely to me. But too many episodes of Saturday Night Live or something. I don't know. I can certainly understand, even though I'm not a writer, but so many people have journaled or memoired their way through. It's sort of therapeutic, and it's also a coping mechanism, I think, to write things down. So you identify as a writer. As you were writing these memoirs, was it in your mind that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write these memoirs to preserve this, and then I'm going to write it so other people can connect with it, and then I'm going to get it published, and then it's going to win a bunch of awards. Was that anywhere on your radar at the time?
Well, getting published was. I wasn't just writing this just for me when I started out. I definitely meant for it to be published. And I had long wanted to publish a book. I had other manuscripts that I tried to get published. This is the first one that was accepted for publication. But winning awards, no, that never ever occurred to me. That was the farthest thing from my mind. That blows my mind, actually.
We don't really have a script here on pjnet.tv. But if I did, I would have enumerated its multiple awards, but I don't have any notes, so help me remember. The Salo Award is the obvious one. I think it's depicted on the book, the seal. Mm-hmm. But that's not the only award.
It won the 2020 Salo Award for memoir, and it won the Cascade Award for memoir in 2020 as well. So the Cascade Award is the contest that the Oregon Christian Writers Conference puts out. And then there's it won a bronze award, a bronze medal in the Illumination Award. So that was quite a year, the year it came out. Yeah.
Well, that helps us recover from some of that traumatic stuff. Getting an accolade. We don't necessarily do it for that, but it sure is affirming. You have a life verse.
I do have a life verse. Yes, Ephesians 2:10. And I like the NLT version the best. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things that He planned for us long ago. Ephesians 2:10.
When did you adopt that?
It was in 2014, 2015 when I was going through that, just recovering from PTSD. And when I discovered that verse, it just really, really connected with my heart, because, and other versions of the Bible say handiwork and things like that, and that's great too. But when I came across the masterpiece, it really threw me for a loop, because when you think of a masterpiece, you think of something like the Mona Lisa, something really, really valuable, and something that, is really lauded by lots of other people, right? And it's considered
A masterpiece.
the best of the best, right? And so when you think about how God made each of us his masterpiece, you start to realize how much he values us, and how much he wants to be in relationship with us, and wants us to grow with him. And that was just really exciting to me. And I have tried to do the good works that he made for me ever since I realized that.
But at the time, you didn't feel like a masterpiece.
No, and this is something people who've read my book tell me all the time, that they felt like God tolerated them instead of loved them, or they felt, like they weren't really worth anything. And I think that's kind of a really common trauma response, especially childhood trauma. You kind of take all of that poor treatment in, and then you start to believe that you are less than. And so it takes a lot of convincing to make sure that you understand how loved you are, how much God values us. So that's a big part of the journey.
An amazing transformation that God can take, and there's so much church culture that truthfully claims that we are wretched, we are depraved, and these things are true. But if you only take that part, how do you embrace God's love and God's grace and God's mercy and become the masterpiece that he designed each of us for a purpose? And that purpose was not to go from one abject failure to another, nor is it to go from one zenith of success to another.
Right.
There is going to be a ebb and a flow of good and bad, but what we do know is that God loves us through all of it. And there's nothing that we can say, think, or do that would cause God not to love us. Romans 8:38 and 39, I haven't got it memorized, but trust me, if you read that, well, it's either true or it's not. And if it is true, that underscores and emphasizes that we are each a masterpiece created. And some of the things that are going on in the political culture right now, if you reflect on that God has a purpose, and that purpose was as he knit you in the womb, we're reminded of these truths. Well, Lyneta, I almost said Lyneta. Mrs. Smith.
You're doing so good.
Well, when you got a last name like Prasic, you just don't even worry about how it gets pronounced. But what an incredible journey, and I would like to welcome your husband and hear about some of the work that he's doing with Covenant Eyes. I've been involved in men's ministry, and that topic has come up from time to time. And I'm a programmer myself, so I think that we'd have a good time. So please let your husband know that we would welcome him to share, but we especially want you to know that we have appreciated you sharing. Some of the things in our lives are not the easiest to talk about. but you have managed and coped and carried that burden very skillfully. And I think, is it fair to say that God's not done? Don't you have something else you're working on down the road?
Yeah, God's not done for a long shot, by a long shot. No. I am working on a 40-day devotional called Mountaintop Moments. You know, sometimes we feel like we're in the valley forever. It's foggy and, you know, you can't see the next one. But this devotional is a collection of things that God has told people from the mountaintops, like Noah from the Mount Ararat, Moses, and Jesus from the Mount of Beatitudes. So I took a collection of verses that things God told people from the mountaintops, and I wrote devotionals so that we can apply some of that stuff to our own lives. And I thought, if we have to be in the valley so often in our lives, wouldn't it be great to just have a few minutes on a mountaintop every morning? So that's how this book was conceived, and I'm almost done writing it, and I'm really excited about it.
Can't wait to hear more when that happens. Let us know. And Lyneta, thank you, Mrs. Smith. There's a lot of Lynetas down here in the South, you understand, and Lynettes.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, and it's tough. But what an encouragement. I can't say that I have suffered anything in my past or childhood that would qualify me for PTSD, but I think more and more people, through testimonies like yours, are beginning to realize that we can't just brush them sweep them under the carpet. Maybe it's time that we had a conversation and bring God in to that conversation. And thank you so much for sharing your story. We've all been inspired by it, and you're welcome back anytime. And let your husband know. We'd like to hear from him.
I will. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been, I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Lyneta Smith here on pjnet.tv. What an encouragement for no matter what you've been through, folks. You are a masterpiece created by God. What an encouraging story. Well, folks, we're going to knock it off a little bit early tonight. That allowed us to go a little bit late on the previous on this program, and I think that's good because there's probably a whole lot more she could have said, but maybe she'll come back and tell us. We will be back tomorrow night. Go to pjnet.tv. There's a button there called the schedule, and we schedule guests Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. And the best place to watch these programs is at pjnet.tv, where you can watch the program and join the wonderful family in the pjnet.tv live chat room. We've made friends for life there, seriously, folks. And all right, as I dismiss, I challenge you to consider two questions. First one: what is the boldest thing that you've ever done in the kingdom of Christ? And the second question is, well, when was that? You see, the challenge for all of us is to never be satisfied with either answer.